Welcome, everybody. We're going to be doing a special tennis episode today. We call our tennis episodes "The Slice is Right," but our normal podcast is called, Locky Top Podcast. You can find us at Locky Top in pretty much every social. So we just want to go through some introductions for you guys. It's not our normal cast. We got two special guests today, Giri and Steven. So I think we'll start off with some general intro questions. Three questions. How did you get into tennis? Who's your GOAT? And what's your favorite stroke or shot in tennis? Giri, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think I got into tennis just because I was playing it. I learned how to play probably when I was like 10 or 11. Played with my dad and then played just middle school and high school. And it was good timing because I think it was just the start of like Fed coming up, becoming dominant, and then segueing into Big Three era, which obviously was very entertaining in a lot of ways, even if it got fatiguing at some point for some viewers. But that was probably early aughts, and then my interest peaked probably more recently, honestly, like following the tour in and out, like in between majors and stuff, was probably since like 2013-ish or so. And then favorite shot, it's probably I like a good inside out forehand, but I also like people who kind of mix it up. So I like a good forehand junky slice here and there. I like players who can play with a little bit of feel too. Um, and then my goat, you know, my goat. I feel like the goat is pretty indisputable at this point. As far as I see it, I think it's Novak. But so definitely my personal attachment to tennis was like for many people through Fed. So sad to see him go, but there's a lot of awesome young players coming up. So I'm excited about that too.
Cool. Steven, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, similar. I was playing tennis at a young age, and my mother would bring my brother and I to the U.S. Open, once a year, and so got addicted watching like Andy Roddick serve the heck out of the ball. And though I think my favorite stroke is still just that Federer one-handed backhand. It's incredibly cliche to say, but just it's a beautiful shot. And my GOAT has to be Sir Andrew Barron Murray. Got to be the Big Four is still alive and well with Sir Murray.
Cool. Roman?
Yeah. How's the sound?
Yeah. Good.
What's up, guys? Good to have everyone. I was trying to get. I'm getting my best Yannick Sinner look right now with this hair or covering my forehead. Been growing it out just for this purpose. So it's. I guess it's been coming all along. But to answer the questions quickly, so I grew up playing tennis since I was maybe 6-7 years old. I trained initially for the first part of my life to, be Yannick Sinner out there on the court. But then, went to college, and first year of college, got into some injuries, and then into some drinking, into some partying, and figured, the dark side took over. So I put the racket back in the bag, and I've been more of an amateur player since then. Favorite stroke, ace down the line, just down the tee. Nice and easy. 15 love.
Cool. And who's your GOAT? I know, but the audience doesn't know.
I think I have to stay true to Roger Federer being the GOAT. For the reasons that the tennis that he plays is just flawless in my opinion, and even though he hasn't gotten as many wins and trophies as some of the other players, and but I think when I think of like the maestro, when I think of that type of perfection in tennis, true what we call poetry in motion, right? I think of Roger Federer. I think of those strokes and the strategy and the demeanor and everything about his game. I think he has like perfected it to the point where he might not be the most accomplished player, and maybe there'll be others who supersede the current big three and their accomplishments. But to me, I've yet to see a player where the understanding and the execution of the game of tennis reaches such heights as we've seen with Roger.
Cool. Andy?
So I started playing tennis in high school, so definitely not as serious as Roman. I didn't make it to NCAA circuit like Roman did, so just a casual amateur player at this point, and more of a viewer than a player, to be honest. But that's kind of my introduction and the beginning of falling in love with the sport. I would say my goat. I don't really agree with the expression. I feel like I see this term being thrown out a lot in a lot of different platforms, interviews. To me, you're either the greatest or you're not. You're one of the greatest players of all time, but there can only be one greatest. And as much as it pains me to say it, as a Rafael Nadal fan, I think the greatest of all time is Djokovic, indisputable. As Giri mentioned earlier, at this point, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. My favorite shot in tennis is a forehand slice. I love it when someone can just execute that sort of the deception perfectly and just leave the opponent sort of guessing, getting ready for a forehand, and just a perfect drop shot. So that would be my favorite shot.
Cool. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I'll just introduce myself. I think what got me into tennis, I started playing similar to Gary around like 11 or 12. Played throughout middle school and high school. I mostly played doubles, so wasn't good enough for singles. Too much running. So I think that my favorite stroke, because of all the doubles I played, is probably like super hard volley right at someone's face or body. Just trying to end points soon, get off the court. That was my goal. So like similar to Andrew, I'm a big Nadal guy, but 24 majors for Joke, less for Nadal. I think you got to go Joke at this point. All right. I think at this point, we can get like an overall Aussie reaction from you guys. Obviously, Sinner rallies back down from 2 sets. What did you guys see throughout the match that like kind of was interesting? Do you think it was more Sinner showing up with better quality, or is it Medvedev fatigue? What do you think were the contributing factors? This time I'll start with Steven. What did you notice in that final match?
I mean, those first 2 sets, or at least the first set and a half, was some of the most fascinating tactical tennis I've seen from Medvedev. He came out the aggressor in a way that you just almost never see him. He's more than willing usually just to play from the baseline, like really just mind F his opponents and get to everything, the octopus thing. But he really took it to Sinner, and you could tell Yannick was not expecting it. And I think ultimately the reason he then falls apart is he spent 24 hours out there on the court at the Australian Open. He was just exhausted. And I think the reason he went out there just guns ablazing from the beginning is he's like, I can't go 5. I can't win this in 5. I've got to win this in 3 or 4 and just like really go for it. And he just ran out of steam.
Yep. Gary, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right on board with that. I feel like the first, like you said, set and a half, maybe generously 2 sets, we'll say, was some of the best tennis I've seen from Med. I feel like it should be pretty encouraging for him as a takeaway. Obviously the result was disappointment, but the fact that he can play that way with such success against a pretty fresh opponent in Sinner, I feel like is something he has in his toolbox now and should feel a little more confident in. But the guy played over a day's worth of tennis over the course of the major. So I think it just caught up to him. And I see it as a very different match from, the time he went up 2 sets in a break to Rafa in the same final in 2022. I think the variables are pretty different. But Sinner, to his credit, it's pretty hard, I think, to stay focused when your opponent is playing at that level. And he found probably a little bit of confidence when he's able to break back in the second set to get a little bit more traction in the match. And then he broke in kind of those identical situations in sets 3 and 4 with Med serving up 5-4. So I think he also managed his energy well. I think there's like a strategic way when you want to make that final push to go for the break. And I think he did that really nicely to lock in sets 3 and 4. And then he pretty much had it from there.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'll chime in a little bit. I think, the 24 hours of tennis was definitely apparent third set and beyond. I think ESPN said during the match, like he was basically Sinner had played 6 hours less of tennis up until that point. And so 24 hours of tennis is for 7 matches is about 4 hours a match for every match. So that's a lot. Obviously he played 5 setters in the quarters, semis, and the finals. That contributes. And unfortunately for Medvedev, nobody has ever lost 2 majors up 2-0 before. So he has a lot of firsts. He's breaking ground, pioneering kind of in this tournament. Any of your thoughts?
Well, I generally agree with everything you guys said. I think Medvedev is at his best when he sort of becomes this aggressive tactician. Also, just with the approaching the net, I feel like some of the best tennis I've seen Medvedev play was in 2019. The U.S., generally speaking, the American hard court swing, where he just kind of came out, blazing against Djokovic. I think in one of the Masters, just going for the second serve as if it's his first serve, just not caring anything in the world, just being aggressive. Same thing against the Rafa in the U.S. Open Final 2019, as well as when he played Djokovic when Djokovic was going for the Grand Slam. I think he just it's his extra motivation. But that being said, I would also take a different approach than the 3 of you guys say. I think the level of tennis that Sinner showed was really impressive. I was actually talking with Roman about this maybe a day before the final, and I think we both agreed that just the level that we've seen from Medvedev so far this tournament hasn't been up to his usual standards in Grand Slams, and we thought that Sinner was playing at a much better level. So not to say that the fatigue didn't play a factor, but I think I want to also sort of hop on the bandwagon here and say the Italian did a great job, and it's all him.
Yep. So Roman, can you talk to us about a little bit more about what you saw from Sinner this match, maybe the Djokovic match before? How do you think Sinner got through those mental hurdles? He had a lot of he's been to the semis before, but first time I guess at a final. So we should talk about that a little bit. So why don't you start us off there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll definitely hearing the consensus here on some of the fatigue issue. I'll bring out one of my points right from the previous the quarterfinal review, where we talked about that this is Medvedev's consistent, Grand Slam into Grand Slam every time type of pitfall, where he plays 5 sets, round 1, round 2, round 3, 4, 5, final. Right? It cannot be the case. The guy, we talk about maybe he's a very good tactical player. He knows how to win the next point. I think what we are starting to realize is that he's not the type of guy who knows how to win the match. And because if you're the type of guy who knows how to win the match, I think if you look at actually Djokovic and Sinner, where it looked completely if we break that down for a little bit, but it's a very important point. How did Djokovic win the third set, where it looked like nothing was going to happen, right? And how Djokovic was able to apply the pressure at the right moments and go for the big shots when he needed to go for them, allow Sinner, a less experienced player, to go for massive, unwarranted shots that sailed 6-7 feet wide. There were multiple instances of that in the third set, but Djokovic, of course, just completely gave up, and it really looked like he had the match under wraps. To me, I was almost certain that Djokovic is going to win at the start of the fourth set, but giving up that service game where he was up 40-15 and just losing 5 points in a row just to give it up completely from that point on, even though he literally almost had them at the drop shot, right? That's what kind of crumbled his spirit, and I think allowed Sinner to regain his confidence and know that he can come out from that point on and just serve out the rest of the match and rely on his big serve and his big playability. But that kind of shows you that tennis is not just about winning every point, and it's not about losing every point. It's about winning the points that matter and when they matter, and those points can be anywhere throughout the match. They could be at 0-0 and the third set. They could be somewhere in the tiebreak in the fourth. They could be anywhere. They could be in the first set. But you need to be able to understand how the points that you are about to play, how they impact the entire match, and not just coming in and trying to win tactically on any particular shot. And I think Medvedev is not a good match manager, and he is just not a guy who developed the skill of knowing how to beat the opponent, and not just play better over a period of time and hoping you get there. So I think that's what ultimately was the pitfall. And I say that because if we bring out the stats of that match and we just don't even look at the score, let me read some interesting stats for you. Total points won, right? Meaning every point you win, whatever it's 15 love or 30 love, whatever, right? You count them up. You know what the score is? It's 142 points won for Sinner, 141 points won for Medvedev. So they won it literally equal amount of points in the match. But again, it matters when those points come.
Yeah.
Right. You look at unforced errors, 49-57. There's a little bit of an edge on the winners unforced errors for Sinner, but there isn't much. When first serve percentage, first serve points won goes to Medvedev. That's usually, we know in the men's tennis, that's the power stat, right? That's what gives you matches won. 8 out of 12 break points for Sinner, 5 out of 9 break points for Medvedev. Just a little bit, right? But those little bits at the right time, with the right pressure applied to those points, is what wins your matches. And that really shows that maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's mental tiredness, but at the end of the day, I think that Sinner is starting to show that he is highly composed player. He is a highly capable player, and he did not let that tiebreak, that match point that he lost to Djokovic, to get into his head, and he was able to show it in the round before. And I think we're going to see some promising things because he's becoming a smarter, tennis player. It's a lot of it is here, not so much on your forehand and backhand.
Cool. So I want to ask a question to the group. I think we'll talk about this with Giri, Steven, and Andy. It's about the other semifinalists, the ones that weren't in the finals. What do you think will happen first? Will Djokovic win his 25th major, or will Zverev win one? So 25 or one. Just want to ask you guys. I think at this point in Djokovic's career, you can kind of initially see the decline. Zverev is always in the hunt in semifinal, quarterfinal, discussion. So I just wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that question: 25 or one. So I'll start with Giri.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure I really see the decline from Novak yet. If I'm being really honest, I think he talked about the tournament a little bit afterwards. I think he never felt physically right here, and he still made the semifinal and almost clawed back into the match against the player who's playing the best in the entire tournament and eventually won it. So I would comfortably say he'll win, 2 more majors, maybe 3 before Sasha gets one. I genuinely don't see a sign of him slowing down, especially his serve has gradually improved over the late phase of his career, which is really important for winning these slams, even if he does eventually lose a step. So yeah, that one gotta go with Novak there.
Cool. Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Novak's. I don't think we're going to see another, 3 slams in a calendar year again, like last year. I mean, it's absurd he did that at 36, but even still, I have to think he's the favorite at every Wimbledon, even with him losing last year, until I see him like have a embarrassing loss, or basically until like he's no longer at Wimbledon. And I mean, there's also just Sasha. You can definitely go into everything he does off the court, but on the court, hit the 3 biggest matches of his career, blew a 2 sets to none lead, blew a 2 sets to none lead, broke his ankle. So like, I don't see it with him ultimately. Like, I think he is clearly behind the current top 4. He is extremely good tennis player, and also a terrible human, but that's I don't see it. He doesn't. He lacks that ability to finish, and it showed in the Medvedev match. I mean, obviously, Medvedev had one of my favorite returns I've ever seen. The slice drop shot return at 5-5 in the 4th set tiebreak. But even then, Zverev really just handed him the match at a couple of junctures, and Medvedev was more than willing to take it. And that's what the best players do, is they take every opportunity. And Zverev is the type of guy that hands it to him.
Cool. Andy, your thoughts? 25 or 1?
Might have to go with the 25. I think.
Question.
Yeah, it's. I'd agree with Steven. I don't think the 3 slam seasons are gonna be there anymore at this age. And really seeing that with this Australian Open, his favorite, where he seemed invincible. Perhaps he wasn't in the right sort of the condition, but that's the type of things that had happened to athletes as they get older. It's harder to get to that peak form as easily as they once were able to, and it's only gonna get worse from here. I mean, granted, I pay a lot of respect to the man who takes incredible care of his body. It's amazing watching him play like this, and as Steven mentioned, as long as Djokovic's name is in that drawing board and the bracket, I think we have to treat him as such, as a favorite. If Federer can get to the final at age 38, I don't see why Djokovic wouldn't be able to. So that would at least mean 2 more years, if not 3. So I think at a minimum 1 or 2 more. Definitely 25 before 1. That's almost for sure. Just to comment on Zverev a little bit, I do think that he has the tools, and when it's clicking, he's awesome to watch. Personal feelings aside, the match against Alcaraz was very, very, very high level. The match he had at the French Open, even a few years back against Nadal, until he got injured. Very, very high level. So he clearly is capable of reaching there. Now, the problem, in my opinion, with him is, as Steven mentioned, the mental aspect of it, and also just like a high volatility. I think it's very clear when he's on, he looks like a most unstoppable guy, and he's beaten, like, for example, Djokovic at the Olympics and things like that. But at the same time, he's also capable of losing to some no-namer, and I think until we see otherwise, I'm gonna have to say I don't see him ever winning a slam. I think he had a good shot while the big three was slowing down, and he was sort of seen as the rising star. But then now Alcaraz has come up. Medvedev's already won a slam. We now also have Sinner. The younger generations are gonna keep trying to play, come up to him. I just don't see that he can get it done at this point. I might be proven wrong, and I'd be glad to.
Don't worry
that I
about
was
it. You
wrong.
won't be. No, you're pretty safe there. You're pretty safe there.
Right, and with the also, as Steven mentioned, with the upcoming personal issues, and that might be also playing a factor as he sort of goes through the legal proceedings, the court trials, and I can see that that's going to impact him in a very meaningful way for someone like that.
Cool. Yeah, like Roman, I'll let you close out this topic, but yeah, like I don't know if I was to set a line of how many majors he'll have. I'd
0.
probably set it at I'll probably set Joke at 25 and a half. I think you can expect one more, maybe two, but yeah, just a quick question for you: 25 or 1?
No, I mean I don't even. I thought you asked about Sinner, or I was like Zverev, Sasha. Like, am I hearing it right? Are we talking about this guy? We might as well talk about Mikhail Yuzhny, or I don't know, Richard Gasquet. Like, I mean, listen, the irony of everything you guys have said, the real irony is that the Zverev has potential, but he has to show it, has been what people have said for the past 10 years about this guy. I mean, at some point, it's like, when you're like have the baby fat and then you realize you're just fat. It's like one of those things. Like, you got to realize you're just not elite. I'm sorry. Like it's too late. It's not going to be a late bloomer. And really, fundamentally speaking, what is good about his game? What weapon does he have to bring there? Nothing. Right? He is just a poor man's Sinner, really, right? Very much a deficient factory, error type of model. That just not all there, and he's not all there mentally. He's not all there in any shape, way, or form. So I don't think that we saw a couple good matches. I mean, anybody can come in, and I think Safin, my compatriot, he said this once, is anybody can win a Grand Slam, right? And anybody can get lucky and win a Grand Slam. But if you win 2 Grand Slams, then you're talking about something, right? So obviously Safin having won 2, being the one to say, but I don't see it at all. I think we're seeing a nice lucky streak from Zverev, and I don't even know. There's nothing to discuss here. I think the Djokovic point is much more interesting to consider. I think again, I'll give myself a pat on the back when everybody was jumping up and down to take Djokovic at plus 100 to win the tournament. And I told you guys, don't go to the bookie. Don't give him your money, right? Because this is a bit of a sports betting show, right? So this once again comes to show that we are entering a time where it might be you might see good opportunities to fade Djokovic, and especially if he is playing. He might cruise first round, second round, third round, but he's going to start coming up on Alcaraz, on Sinner, much more often, as these guys also going to start cruising through first and second rounds, being 2, 3, 4 ranked. So that's going to be a humongous challenge for him to overcome every single time. And you have to play the odds. So I'm not sure if the odds are necessarily in the favor of people backing Djokovic to win many more slams. I think I would love for him to win more. I think it's very likely that he will win more, but it will likely take some kind of almost like that Nadal US Open you won. Like it would take like a bit of a lucky draw, a couple injuries, a couple of guys going out for it to be like a sure lock for him to win. But like for example Wimbledon, I mean, I would be surprised Sinner is not the favorite to win the Wimbledon. The way he plays, especially his game, is highly desirable on the grass. Alcaraz has already shown it. I think Alcaraz could do great things at the French. So those would be the guys that I would back. At the right odds. I'm just not taking Djokovic like plus 150 or anything like that. to win a slam against a highly competitive field. And I don't think we should discuss Zverev ever again on any program going forward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the odds. Like, I have them in front of me for the
Ship 'em.
three upcoming tournaments. I'll start with French because it's next chronologically. I'll go through like the top 4 or 5 that I see here, and obviously we can discuss the merits or what has value. So Alcaraz is the favorite, plus 150 ish.
There we go. There we go.
Djokovic, plus 220. Then we got Sinner. Sinner plus 500. Holger Rune and Casper Ruud close it out. Is anything like those guys are both like basically 10-1 odds to win. Anything stand out for you for the French Open coming up? Is this going to is you think Sinner can challenge Alcaraz, or we also have Nadal plus 400.
No, don't. The viewers, listeners, don't do it. Don't. I mean, you're gonna get the refund because he's not gonna play. If it just okay, go into the tennis futures section in your bookie and scroll down and find the one where it says Nadal to retire by the time the French Open starts, and book it for max wherever your bookie gives you maximum. Put the money there. Nadal is retiring. We can talk about it in more detail, but don't lock up your bookie balance in the stupid plus 400 that is never going to even like get a whiff of the red clay.
Yep. So maybe let's start with Steven this time, then Giri, about like what are your thoughts for the French and beyond? Do you think like we'll see multiple slams for Sinner this year, or is it going to flip back to Alcaraz? What do you guys think?
I mean, first of all, I just have to say I'm still holding out the it's becoming more and more of a dream and not a reality, but that Nadal comes back, wins Rome, wins the French Open, retires by winning the Olympics at Roland Garros. I'm going to hold on to it until I see him at the retirement presser. But ultimately, I think Carlos Alcaraz last year probably should have won the French Open and not Wimbledon. He couldn't quite handle the pressure cooker of Djokovic in that semifinal yet. And I think this year, he's going to. My expectation would be Juan Carlos Ferrero is going to have him with his clay season prepared to handle the rigors of 7 5-set matches or best of 5 matches. And ultimately, I think this is the year that he breaks through and wins the French Open. The last 2 years he really could have, and before Zverev and Djokovic took him out respectively. But this year I think should be his. Wimbledon, I can't pick against Novak on the grass, even though I saw it last year, even though Sinner is, fantastic for the surface and has shown the ability there. And then, the US Open just ends up being extremely weird, especially in an Olympics year like this. If Novak's going to go all out because he wants that gold medal, and then if he doesn't get it, will he have, similar to 2021, will he kind of just lose it a little bit like he did? I think if I remember, Cincinnati, he was a little bit, or Toronto, he was a little bit off. But if he can get it, then it could buoy him for the summer hard court season. Even though it's a clay court tournament this year.
Cool. Yeah, Giri, your thoughts? Maybe you can say potentially who you think would win each of the remaining 3 majors.
Sure. Yeah, it's good that you bring up Alcaraz, the last French Open. I think he talked about just those cramps being a totally result of the tension of the moment. But the freakish thing about Alcaraz is that he goes back and plays Novak the next month, and holds up to the tension incredibly, and I think he'll be prepared for that moment should it happen on the clay. And I think over time, I kind of expect him to have not quite a Rafa relationship with that tournament, but pretty close. I think it is the surface where I expect him to have kind of the most comparative advantage over Sinner. And in terms of that rivalry, I think he had the edge there. Whereas, despite his accomplishments not yet matching Carlos on grass, I think Sinner could ultimately have it like slightly bigger edge on grass in time. But for this particular French Open, I think I'll pick Alcaraz. And Wimbledon still have to go with Djokovic. Still, just the body of work is too good, and it will be, as Stephen mentioned, kind of before he makes that real push for Olympics. Should he choose to do that, I think the U.S. Open could get a little wonky after that, depending on how fatigue is piled up for all these players. But U.S. Open, I honestly might just go back with Medvedev. I think I think we're going to be a little quick to write him off because it's been incredible to watch Alcaraz and Sinner rise, but the guy's pretty much booking an appointment at the final of every hard court major pretty consistently. And I don't know. I think we can talk about his match management this slam, but if you go through and look at some of his previous hard court slam runs, I think he's been pretty clean at a lot of them, and he's taken care of business in a pretty efficient manner, just in terms of time on the court and sets played. So this one felt more like an anomaly to me than something that I'm worried about going forward. And yeah, I just think he's still too dangerous there for me to pick, let's say, like Sinner or someone for the U.S. Open. But again, it's at the end of the season, so you never really know what's going to be happening by then.
Cool, Andy. Same question. Who's going to win each of the remaining majors?
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to go with Alcaraz at French. Same boat with Steven. It would be great. I would love to see Nadal come back and make at least a run to the quarters or something like that. But it's looking more and more like a pipe dream than a reality. So I'm gonna go with Alcaraz at French. One dark horse, I would say, is could Casper make some kind of splash there? I mean, he's been reaching the finals, last 2 times. And maybe the third time's the charm. I can't really fault the guy for losing to 2 of the greatest ever in tennis in the finals. So I would just say that Alcaraz, at this point, with Nadal having no sort of sign of return. Olympics is, I don't know. I feel like Djokovic probably won't win the Olympics if I had to take a pick there, just taking a little detour. I feel like maybe it's by luck, but consistently we've seen Djokovic sort of come up short when he's representing his country, whether it be the Olympics or in the Davis Cup. So I'm gonna say that's probably going to Alcaraz. Wimbledon, going with Djokovic there, and U.S. Open. I'm gonna hop on the same train as Giri. Excuse me. I feel like Medvedev sort of has that experience that Roman sort of talked about, and this will be a sort of hopefully his learning experience on how can I effectively end the match, preserve my fitness level. And he's reached I guess not by now 6th hard court slam final, so it seems like a pretty safe choice.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just give you my picks before switching over to Roman. I think Alcaraz wins French and Wimbledon, and then we'll see Sinner Medvedev kind of rematch. I kind of agree with Giri there about Medvedev gets there a lot, so it's just about execution and the final, and then I'll have Sinner winning. So 2 apiece for each of the younger players. So I'm sticking with that pick. So I'll let Roman kind of close this topic out and give us his reads for the next 3 total slams.
Yeah, but before we do that, can we get a recap of Andy's last slam prediction? Because we wanna, because I think for our two new guests, it would be it would be good to know what was the last time we did this prediction round, and how the tides have turned.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Nate.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that and you picked Medvedev. I'm not sure about the remaining slams.
No, it was the Dolph, I think, for French. It was very confident pick.
Oh,
And I
Nadal,
think then
French.
Joker and Alcaraz, right? I think something like that.
So potential to go, 0-1
Potential
start.
to go 0 and 4. Very
0-1
the road.
start,
0 and 1 is there.
0-4 is live.
Very much
But yeah,
so.
yeah, Roman.
I will also do a little switcheroo of flip flopsky here, since that's what we're doing these days. And I'll say I said this before, that Alcaraz's mental state just isn't there, and I think I actually wanted to say something like to this in the same realm about Sinner, but you can't go out there and enjoy playing tennis. That's not allowed. You're not out there to have fun. You're not out there to hit a winner and go like, no. You lose matches that way. Tennis is a horrible sport. I was just thinking about it. It is. You guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the only, I think, non-contact sport where you have to win to make money. You cannot sign a contract with a team and get paid for 10 years straight and hihiri through the decade, right? You have to win in order to get paid. And until that mentality, like until he wakes up sweating in the middle of the night, until we hear these things like we hear from Agassi, from Boris Becker, right? These guys were just like, dreaming about their opponents, their rivalries, just waking up in cold sweat. Like, is this guy practicing right now? What is he practicing? What do I need to be practicing to beat him on the court? That's the mentality that you need to take those skills to become the top, 2, 3, 4 player. I really, really hope Sinner goes that way. I really hope he doesn't just end up, thinking that he's kind of done here, and let's just go and do our Italian fashion photo shoots that he likes to do and all of that kind of stuff, because then this is going to be another I don't know, Naomi Osaka story. Like, we don't want that. But Alcaraz, I said it, that this mentality of enjoying himself on the court is going to get to him. It has gotten to him. He lost to arguably the worst player you can lose to in a quarterfinal. But by far the mental midget, Zverev. He lost to him, and is he going to come back and take that as a victory? Is Juan Carlos going to drill that into his head, that he needs to develop that Mamba mentality, right? We just honored Kobe a few days ago. So if he does, then sure, he is a favorite to win the French. Absolutely. He's going to have a hard time playing against Sinner. Again, if Sinner continues on the same, and notice how Sinner played, right? When he played Djokovic, when he played Medvedev, there was no laughing, there was no smiling. It was all business from first minute to the last minute. It's very nice, very encouraging to see. No mental breakdowns, no yelling, none of that crap, no breaking rackets. So I do like seeing it on the court. I hope that continues. Alcaraz needs to turn on the killer mentality. And then I think, looking at the odds, I think, you have to take Alcaraz at the French. You might, I think Sinner could make a comeback and, take the grass season. But if he wants to, and I think a lot has to happen. I think the game on clay is different, right? You have to go to short grass tournament, but your game has to be suited to a good grass game, and a lot of times it comes at the cost of a good clay game, particularly being that these two seasons are so close to each other. So it's hard to manage, and that's why Federer, I think, had such didn't have as much success on clay, partially because he didn't want to be this kind of all around not all around, but more like he didn't want to focus what it means to become a outside success on clay as Nadal focused on, and definitely later on transition his game into a more of a hardcore game. But I think we have to take maybe Sinner there, maybe at the better odds potentially, especially if Nadal retires and Alcaraz wins the French. I think we're going to have good odds on Sinner to take him to the Wimbledon, and then the U.S. Open is going to be interesting. I was trying to look up who Djokovic has on the team with him, because he can focus on doubles, right? He can focus on doubles, get the medal in doubles. Does he have a medal in doubles already for the Olympics? Any of the other gurus here, but anyway, you can't focus on that, right? I think Roger got the medal for the doubles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he can do the same. Get it off your list. No need to sweat it, and focus on the Open. So maybe, and I think Djokovic has. I don't want to discount Djokovic. I saw there was the headline on the video was, "Is Djokovic done?" He's not done. I will say when we're done. We're done when I say we're done, right? So he'll tell us when he's done. But I think we are yet to see. We're yet to see what we saw with Nadal, what we saw with Federer. We're yet to see the dip and the renaissance with Djokovic. To be honest, he's been dominant throughout. So maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it this year, and this is why I think it's very important to pay attention to the tournament bracket. Very important to pay attention to the odds, because we're going to get opportunities like we got here to not take Djokovic, to take the other guy for spread on sets, to take Medvedev plus 900 to win and have that plus 900 ticket in the finals. Those are going to be opportunities going to come to us whenever Djokovic is in the slam. But we have to be mindful. Like if Djokovic looks zoned in, like he's about to kill people, don't do it. Don't take, play it safe. If he is, messing around, losing, set or two sets here and there in the first couple, matches in the slam, maybe you gotta say, okay, right? Especially you guys mentioned, let's say he goes, balls to the wall in the Olympics. Okay, maybe, we think about him being a bit out of it and maybe riding a bit of a, we know he likes to party. We know he loves Serbia. So if he wins that medal, there's going to be days and days and days of drinking. So we've seen the COVID parties. I mean, we've all seen them. We know the guy. He's no Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal. I mean, this guy is more like Safin. I mean, it's just like a bit of a party animal. So, is he going to show up hungover to his first match on the U.S. Open? We don't know, but he might. So I would be more mindful of taking Djokovic in the Open because of that. But maybe if he loses in the Olympics, then maybe we'll see a rejuvenated focus on getting that slam, and then we can think about what the odds, especially if he loses, what the odds makers will say about his game.
Cool.
So I think that's kind of where my head's at.
Yep. So I think final couple topics here. We'll combine them. Just wanted to get your guys' reads about a player that might cause some chaos in the final. In 2024, that isn't someone we normally talk about. I think that can we do the same thing kind of for clay? So who's a newcomer that would hit the scene in clay? Who's a newcomer that might hit the scene, that hasn't won before? Overall for 2024, I think let's start with Giri and then go to Steven.
So you mean like a newcomer who might actually threaten to win some titles?
Maybe some ATP titles, or get to a semifinal in the French, or who's someone that might threaten the current status quo of Alcaraz, Sinner, Novak, etc.
Yeah, interesting. I always like Musetti's game on clay, but I don't know if he has really the upside to actually beat these guys. It's very hard to remember sometimes that Tsitsipas is still going and still has that level on clay, but he's been to the final at Roland Garros. He's been up 2 sets, so he's definitely I don't think he's trending necessarily in the right direction right now, but he has a good track record. Seems like he's kind of messing around with his service motion, or at least he was at this tournament. So I don't know if the full confidence is there, but I think in terms of like more of a wild card, I think just like a player outside the top 50, we'll say. I think this guy from Brazil, Thiago Sebasville, who, if you might remember, took Medvedev out of Roland Garros last year. And I think took Rublev 5 sets this year at the first round in Australia. So I think he's got a really good game on clay, and he seems like the kind of guy who would make a push into like top 40, top 30 potentially this year. But I don't know if I necessarily expect him to finish clay season with the title. Just someone who came to mind.
Cool. Same question for you, Steven.
Yeah, not quite a breakout guy, but the one guy who I think like could challenge for the French that we haven't talked much about is Rude. And like he has been in the last 2 finals. He didn't look very good in either of them, but if it breaks right, I also think last year he spent the offseason playing exhibition matches with Rafa Nadal as idol, and it just threw off his entire first half. And he still got to the French Open final, but he's certainly a threat to do something there and beat any one of those top guys on clay. I wouldn't necessarily pick him to win it all, but he's certainly a real player there. The 2 guys who I would say are like breakout candidates for this year are Matteo Arnaldi, who I really love watching him play, and he gets to kind of everything. I think it's mostly a like height and appearance thing, and not necessarily a game weight thing. But he reminds me a lot of Demonor. And then the other guy who I think is a breakout is the guy Arnaldi beat in 5 sets at the U.S. Open in a match that I really enjoyed. Is Arthur Fee from France. He's a 19-year-old. I think he's already broken into the top 40, but I think he has the potential to like be that next guy that like this is the year he breaks into the top 20 and really can go forward, but not quite there to maybe be at like the semifinal final of a major, but a real solid young player to look out for.
Cool. Roman, your thoughts for like a new newcomer?
I'm looking at the rankings. I'm looking. It's hard. It's very hard. I think all the usual suspects. Everyone brought up Tsitsipas. Another, it's just the Greek Zverev. Very very tough too. Just you never know. Wakes up and wants to win, or he wakes up and wants to be a little bitch. I mean, it's just hard to predict. But I like Ben Shelton. I think Ben Shelton is going to absolutely destroy some of these parlays. I think he's going to be the minus 500, 600 killer. He's going to be, he's going to be dialing to your bookings, closing the phone on you because you're going to have Tsitsipas minus 500, and then you're going to end up, I don't know what he's going to look like on clay, but we always get this dark horse. Look, the betting markets in tennis, they have a hard time adjusting, and that's why we need to understand, that we once the markets are kind of like stuck where they are, and the players are stuck where they are, you're sort of just grinding it through. But right now, the markets are finally fluid. I think we're seeing guys overperform. We're seeing guys underperform. We're seeing some new guys that no one's ever heard of. It's an interesting time to get into the tennis betting, and it's going to be a little bit different. You don't have to just blast these ridiculous like minus 500, minus 600 parlays every time, like 5-6 matches and just sweat it out to get like a minus 120 on your entire card. I think you can find some good value there, and any of these players that we mentioned, I think it's anyone's season. I think it's clear. I think seeing a brand new, think about it. We have a very fresh face winning a slam at the start of the year. This hasn't happened in tennis in decades. This is a new territory. This is maybe a sign of things to come. And I think a lot of people seeing that right? Like if I'm Ben Shelton, I don't know if I'm somebody else, Rude, etc. Guys who feel like they haven't fully achieved their potential. Are they waking up an hour early tomorrow to hit the gym? Are they serving another basket of serves, right? Like they might be, because they think like this could be a year where you're not playing Djokovic in the final, or maybe you're not playing Djokovic in the semifinal anymore. You might not be playing Nadal at any point in the tournament anymore. So you have a real chance. You have to believe in yourself. Tennis is a son of a bitch of a sport. You have to believe in yourself. Beyond rational belief, you have to be irrational confidence in yourself to really achieve. And I'm hoping that a lot of these guys find that irrational confidence. And for guys that are who are not named Tsitsipas or Zverev, that irrational confidence is going to help. And for some guys, it's just going to cause them to have a mental breakdown and pee their pants on the court. So let's. I'm really looking forward to it. It's hard for me to say, but I think any good up and coming name, we should all pay attention to. And I think the U.S. Open is going to be the most interesting U.S. Open we've seen. Once all is said and done, and we have some competitive, some competition on the landscape. Same as it goes for the rankings too. We won't see such a heavy front-loaded ranking. We might see a little bit of variance, which is unusual.
Yeah, good time in general to be a tennis fan. It's kind of like changing of guards.
Oh, thank you.
As Roman loves to say,
the passing of the torch.
Passing of the torch, changing of the guards, whatever euphemism you want to use. Andy, I'll ask you again the same question. You see any breakout performers this year in 2024, or for clay specifically? Either one you can answer.
Yeah, great reminder of the expression there. I have a text message from Roman in 2017 that he said, the victory are done. We're about to see the passing of the torch. I still have it saved. Maybe next time I'll bring out the screenshot and start with that. So it's finally good to see some parity. Finally good to see some young up and comers come and actually show us great level of tennis. We call the generation between the current youngsters and the big three like the lost generation. I mean, it's not fair to them because they ran into three of the greatest players ever. But that being said, again, it's exciting to finally see some new faces. It's like seeing Michigan or Washington or Texas in the playoffs after seeing Bama, Georgia, Bama, Georgia, Bama, Georgia. So very exciting. US Open is always the one that brings the most random winners and the most exciting sort of the introductions to new players. There's a reason why we've seen a lot of those one-time slam winners so far at the US Open. Dominic Thiem, Martin Cilic. So, I think US Open will be very exciting, as Roman mentioned. I remember when we first started seeing Alcaraz go against Tsitsipas, and that's sort of his, rise to the general public as like, the dark horse. So hopefully we see some of those things happening for these young guys that Giri and Steven mentioned. For me, I don't have a dark horse outside of the top 50. I was gonna suggest Ben Shelton, but Roman already brought him up, so I'm gonna go with.
So he's fucked.
Two people like Ben Shelton, so I think
season-ending injury coming up.
That might not be a good thing. I do like Casper to at least make it to semifinal at French Opens. I think, as Steven mentioned, and I think I mentioned this earlier. Another name that I feel like we haven't talked about all episode is Holger Rune or Rune. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Rune.
But yeah, so he's made the quarters at French last 2 years. He has he's also made the final at I think I want to say Monte Carlo, and I'm not sure if it was Barcelona or Rome, but I do recall that he's made one of those finals. Always pretty solid choice. He's still pretty young. It feels like he's been around forever, but he's only 20 or 21, so still plenty of potential there. So I think it'll be great if he can sort of insert himself into the mix of Alcaraz and Sinner, who clearly at this point have differentiated themselves from the rest of the youngsters.
Cool. Thanks for that, Andy. I think that was very thorough from all of us today. Had a lot of fun discussing tennis. Yeah, and thank you to our guests, Giri and Steve. It was great to have you on. I learned something new from you guys. So learned about two players to watch. So I'll bookmark those players. I don't know.
In your bookie, bookmark them.
Yeah, bookmark in the bookie. You know, that's how it goes. I think just looking at the top 10 and the rest of the year, I just don't see anyone breaking through. I guess like this sexy thing to say is Rune, but I don't believe that much. So I think it's going to be one of the guys we talked about for the majority of the show. I personally, two favorites players right now are probably Sinner and another young guy, Rublev. So I would love to see Rublev go far, maybe in US Open. I think he has a game for US Open, so that would be great. But yeah, I think for the last couple seconds, let Giri and Steve maybe plug their Twitters or any websites that they're right for. So I'll start with you, Giri.
Yeah, Rublev is a good shout out. I feel like he gets forgotten, but he did have a good breakthrough. I think he won Monte Carlo last year. That was good for him. He's always feels like he's always in the quarters every single major. He's had some tough matchups there, but I think he'll break through. At least to make a semi sometime soon. But yeah, I write often about tennis at defector.com, which is sports and culture website, and freelancing here and there. So just keep an eye out.
Yeah, and what's your Twitter?
Oh yeah, you could follow me, Giri Nathan, GIRINATHAN.
Cool. Steven, same thing for you.
Oh.
My Twitter is @StevenTydings. Tydings is TYDINGS. I mostly tweet about tennis, the Boston Celtics, and baseball at random times. I also am a big fan of Defector, so I'll also plug Defector. And also, lastly, I will say this has to be the year that Rublev finally breaks through to a semifinal. So I'll close on my bit on that.
Okay, feel good about my final pick then. Got the two.
I think that's more of a sympathy closing statements that the guests have for the host. But
okay, I'll take it any way I can get it. But anyway, yeah, I'll take the remaining couple seconds to plug ourselves at Locky Top Sports. I know this is a tennis episode, but we come out every Saturday around noon or 1 p.m. with an episode mostly primarily focused on American sports, college football, college basketball, any sport.
You're gonna get tired listing all the sports that we are focused on or bet.
Yeah, we got to figure out what the right sport is.
What
right?
do we not focus on or bet on?
Yep. So yeah,
if it's in your bookie, we got it.
Yeah, that's the episode for today. Thank you guys for joining in, and thanks to our guests again.